Hello, myself Sunil Ramakrishnan, and here basically we are discussing about the 181 number formula part. And till now, basically we have discussed lots of things. Lots of things means lots of things. Subscription plan. How basically World Bank is telling that we have created lots of subscription plan, and how USA is telling that all the IT related subscription plan we have created. IT related subscription plan means soft each and every oxygen basically which they are taking. For example, there is one Microsoft blood cells. It's ongoing, right? So one person told that yeah, basically we can access his blood cells from the mobile, and blood cells is directly connected with the blood head. So directly they are basically accessing the head of that particular person. So up to this level, basically the technology has reached, and the person basically whose head was attacked, he basically don't know that the from mobile his head was attacked. So that's basically up to that minor level the things has been connected in this IT industry. So basically this is negative part, and there are lots of positive and negative activities which is created by the software industry. So we will discuss little bit more about the negative and positive software industry task. For example, positive basically comes to each and every human needs basically which are created, that are basically positive because it's generating the blood cells and it's generating the positive energy. Few blood cells basically generates that as a negative. Negative means his brain gets damaged, his head gets damaged, his blood cells get some disease. That's basically the negative energy basically you can say. So that also basically the lots of foods are there basically. For example, chili food. Chili means it's very hot, right? And that doesn't suit to any person's body. Not any person means few persons basically. Few persons body does not suit the chili. In Hindi basically it is called as a mirchi. Chili. In Malayalam, basically, it is called as a mollau. Mollau. So, like this, basically, you can just imagine the software industry has. So, basically, chili also can be created from the software energies. Software energy means, for example, that there is one person. He told that we have created this software especially to create the chili. Chili means mirchi, mollau. So basically, especially the chili has been created from the software industry, and basically you can understand the value of chili also, because if one chili at least cost I think 25 to 30 paisa, right? Minimum basically you can say. So you can just imagine the rate of the software also basically, and the energy data basically which is getting used. So this basically comes into negative and positive energy both sides basically. Because chili comes to negative and energy, negative and positive energy both sides. So there are lots of foods basically which comes into negative and positive both sides. So there are you can say lots of human bodies which basically think negativity and positivity, right? Uh, Police basically thinks positivity, but the terrorists basically they think negativity because their task is like that they have to think negativity. So, but police have to think both sides, negativity and positivity. So you can just imagine the both groups blood cells. So here basically we are not we are just talking about the software negative side and software positive side. So before software, basically the blood cells were there. That was also positive, negative. So from that blood cells only, basically the software negative, positive blood cells has created, right? Because there is no source is supposed to be there, right? So here the source is the negative, positive blood cells, which was already exist in this world. From that blood cells only the software industry has created. For example, font in this computer, whatever things basically we type, Italian, Verdana, Times of Roman, this each and every font basically, that is basically handwriting of some particular person. It's not like that somebody has not written this exactly same letter basically some is written by someone. From that only the font, this font basically got created. Italian language basically, Italy language. So basically the cursive writing you can say. But the up to cursive writing basically there are many language, many writings basically. For example, Vardana, Times of Roman, Times of India, Sulek basically it's a Gujarati font. So there are many fonts basically Gujarati fonts. So each and every writing basically which is Sulek is giving, that basically they have taken from some one of the writing, right? Without basically source, how you can write the thing basically. So here basically to explain the software industry, I have taken the example of font. The font is the best example of the software industry that source is taken by somebody groups, some groups. Same way, negative softwares energies and positive software energies are basically taken from any of the blood cells. So one of the person told that Microsoft blood cells is there, right? But Microsoft blood cells is taken from one of the groups basically. It's not that it has taken automatically. So Microsoft has one group which blood cells has basically taken, and that basically from that energy the blood cells so the Microsoft energy has generated. So here basically the source is what. So from which source the things are basically getting generated. So that source basically whatever the source is was, that source only basically has converted to softwares negative and positive. So source is always there. For example, Microsoft negative energy. So there are lots of build. For example, Microsoft energy is created from, assume that it's created from 20,000 buildings and from 200 cities. Just taking as an example, in real number, basically it might be totally different. It might be double, it might be triple, it might be half also. So here basically we are not discussing the numbers. Here basically we are discussing the concept basically. The what actually the positive energy is, what actually the negative energy is. So here basically the Microsoft energy is created from the set of source, that is basically here we have taken as an example 200 cities. So from 200 cities data, this Microsoft negative and positive energy has generated. And from that negative and positive energies only, the datas are getting entered. And in this basically the according to the negative software which is generated, there basically the negative data are getting entered, and whenever the positive it's the positive data. So it's not like that in the positive software the negative data is getting entered. So that's basically depends upon the Microsoft architecture, basically how the Microsoft architecture. Few people basically says that if you hack the software and you get the data, then also basically it will you will have to do lots of hard work. So that type of data are also basically getting entered. So for example, anybody hacks the data, then basically you have to do lots of hard work basically. In that time of hardware, basically we will track that person basically who is basically has hacked the data. So that type of companies are also there basically, because they says that our data are so critical that it can't be, you can't access the data. It's a very critical data. So because it's connected with negative energy and positive energy. So there are two types of energy in software industry. One is the negative energy and second is the positive energy. So positive and negative. So here basically in the subscription plan basically, the subscription plan basically which government takes by the World Bank and by the that subscription plan groups. World Bank are also basically created by a set of people only, right? So directly, but the things basically subscription happens, that happens through World Bank only. Direct basically you can't go with the particular person, because this connects like this. You can't get the visa directly by you can't get the visa directly from the country, right? You have to go through via government only. For example, I want to apply for Singapore visa. I can't get directly visa, right? I can't get the Singapore visa directly. Why? Because government is there in between. They are telling that if you are going to Singapore, it would be our responsibility. Whatever you are going to do there, that government is the Singapore government is going to catch Indian government, not to you. So that's why basically the government says that we have to always keep in the loop basically between the government and the employees. So that's why basically the negative energy and positive energy comes, because Singapore government says that we can't give the visa to the person basically who are basically criminal minded, etc., etc. So here basically we are not talking about the criminal mind or whatever mind basically. Here basically we are talking about the positive energy and negative energy. So negative energy is negative activities, positive energies are positive activities. So subscription plan basically which the country gives, that is basically the World Bank basically wherever it is situated, they gives the negative energy and the positive energy uh, according to the data which the government is requiring. Government need the data. So World Bank is telling that we are not sending our data, we are sending those data only which government is requiring, which government is needed, which government is telling this data we need. That means basically the Indian government are connected with the World Bank. That is basically by default, because uh, how Indian government basically is telling that we have the subscription data what which the World Bank is creating newly, that Indian government basically can't say no, because it's not in India basically they are creating the subscription plan, right? And the World Bank, for example, in some Indian are basically working there in India in World Bank, so he is also not authorized to share the data to the India government, but he can share that little bit information, but full information he is also not authorized, because it's his duty basically. You can say you can't share the information to the any of the government, because you are doing the duty of World Bank, not of the Indian government. So basically here it's a rules and responsibility also of the uh, World Bank, and World Bank is telling that we have created the subscription plan and we know the subscription plan, and suggestion basically can be give to the any of the country, that basically it should be legally, that should be for example one of the support executive told that we need this help, any of the country basically are the customer of this World Bank. So one of the representative admin department of the Indian government, he told that basically we need one support from your side, that which type of data we can send this time basically. So assume that every 2 months the subscription data are getting sent to the uh, World Bank, and World Bank is telling that we got this need requirement, and according to this requirement we are passing the data to the Indian government. Means they are not giving in the paper, they are basically passing the data in the nuclear power plant and the power banks, that is basically the power companies and the energy companies. They are not giving the data to the satellite satellite. So for example, World Bank is telling that we have created this data and we have sent our data to we have sent whatever. For example, there are 200 countries in this world, and we have created 200 countries subscription plan also, and we have sent to the satellites. So they are telling that we have sent the data to the satellite, you will get the data automatically from the satellite only. So the creation is not reached up to this level. So we are not telling that, basically I am not telling that the through satellite the data are basically getting to the satellites of the Indian satellites, and then basically the Indian satellites are telling that we are basically passing the data, because we know basically the which type of data is required, and negative data, positive energy data. So whatever data basically which we are supposed to give to you, to the Indian government, sorry, to the India land, that data we are going to give to the nuclear power plant, and the few basically data are directly sent to the power companies and to the energy companies. So basically, like this, basically up to this level, basically the technology has not reached. So in future, basically this might get possible because uh, it's a Earth planet basically, right? And Earth planet is always moving. So data basically manipulation might happen. That basically might happen basically, but it's very difficult because if to do the manipulation of the data, you should know the things basically, right? You should know up to that level. You should be able to, you should have the technology also. And nowadays basically each and every computer is getting tracked, right? For example, one person is I will take one example of the computer industry. Basically nobody will believe this. The example is, for example, uh, till now basically assume that in this world around 600 crore, 600 crore word file has created, Microsoft Word file has created. Just taking as an example, don't go to number side, but it might be 600 crore. Assume that it's a 600 crore. So each and every file that is basically 600 crore is going to be checked by the certain industry. Repeating the word, 600 crore is the word file which is created in this world till now after the computer generation has started. And that each and every 600 file, each and every single file of the 600 is going to be checked one day. It can be automated and it can be manipulation, it can be manually also. But automatic whatever check happens, that basically one day the manual checking 100% will going to happen, but that takes time. But the critical thing basically gets checked automatically, which are not so critical, basically they filters the data of the critical things, and then they basically checks the manual stuff basically. But whatever the basically but each and every file basically one day is going to calculate manually. That is basically 100% sure, but whatever things are basically written, because software industries say that we can't ignore a single file. Why? Basically the reason is the satellites group carries each and every file with them in the satellites, and satellites are connected directly with the planets, galaxies, and satellites to satellites computers. So one day basically the data is going to be stored in the satellite 100%. So basically whatever data that basically 600 crore data word file which is created, that is 100% going to be stored in one of the satellite computer. That is 100% sure. But one day it is going to show create. One day it is going to store. But that will take time basically. It's not like that it is going to happen on day or night. That takes time basically. So but one day basically it is going to be stored. That is 100% sure. And there are basically few files basically they directly store at the satellites only. They don't they says that we can't trust the few computers. Few means the people basically who are directly working in the satellite industry, directly the galaxies groups are basically watching that person's task. That stuff basically are directly kept at the satellite's computer only basically. In our planet, not a single computer is basically going to store his data basically because his work is up to that level. So you can just imagine the work of the his what the thing basically he might be designing, what the architecture basically he might be telling. I will take one example of the architect basically he might be designing. For example, uh, uh, internet cyber security, right? For example, in this world basically, uh, assume that there are 7,000 gates. 7,000 gates means security gates. So just taking as an example, basically, in real basically it might be 70,000 also. Here basically just we are taking as a 7,000. 7,000 gates are there in the software industry, in the internet industry, and that 7,000 internet gate means without user ID password you can't enter that road. You can say the seventh one. Assume that there is one internet roadmap to access certain data, you have to go from this roadmap only. So that is basically created by one of the group basically. That is basically the internet industry basically you can say. This is basically converted into industry. Why industry? Because from this industry, from that internet data, the human needs are getting created nowadays. So you can say it's an internet gas pipeline which is getting generated in some location basically you can say. So whatever data internet is getting passing, that basically is getting converted into data, and that data is basically getting converted into the internet gas pipeline, and that gas pipeline basically you can say getting used in the human needs also. That is basically creation of vegetables, creation of fruits, creation of wheats, creation of oils, creation of petrols. So the thing basically here we are discussing it, there are 7,000 gates, internet gates. That basically 7,000 gates have some physical location also. For example, one person told that I want to enter to that internet location. So he entered the user and password and reached to that location. So that person has entered to that location, right? From the user ID and password. So physical authentication has made of that particular person that this person is going to enter this particular place. So whenever basically for example, he created the user ID. So his user ID and password is authenticated by the physical that place. Basically, that is basically the gate number 7,000. So whatever the gate number 7,000 it is in internet, that has some physical location, physical verification is happening. So that person's physical verification has happened, and then only basically the user ID and password was able to enter that particular internet location. So like this 7,000, 6,999 gate has entered. Then plus like this basically each and every steps are there basically in internet gates basically you can say that has some physical location. If you want to enter to particular that location from internet, then basically you have to give the physical verification. Without that basically you can't enter. For example, one person is creating his user ID, at least 10 minutes basically it takes, right? So within 10 minutes basically his physical verification happens. That's basically the lots of lakhs of people are basically sitting in the internet, in the certain centers basically you can say supporting centers. They basically do the verifications within a fraction of minutes basically. That's why basically it takes 10 minutes, right? Otherwise, basically, how it will, for example, here, at least basically, if you are entering any subscription plan, subscription sign up basically, you have at least 2 to 3 steps. Without that, basically, you can't enter the login, right? Then they says that we have sent the activation mail to your server, sorry, to your login screen, sorry, to your email address. Then basically he goes there to me email address, and then he do the login. There basically 5 minutes happens. Like this basically minimum is a 10 minutes. Within 10 minutes this everything happens. So physical verification is always there of this particular gate. For example, you are creating user ID in Yahoo, right? So Yahoo basically support center are there basically. And if some user are very critical, then basically the Yahoo this users authentication reach up to the Yahoo owner level also. So that type of user, for example, certain user basically has created, and he was basically banned from the IT industry. And suddenly, basically, he created the Yahoo user ID, and then basically his Yahoo authentication basically reach up to the owner level. Basically, that this person has accessed the your user our Yahoo server. So should we approve or not? Then basically he tells that if he says that yeah, basically you can approve and but keep his track of each and every email address, each and every email which he is getting, from where basically he's getting the email, from where he's sending the mail. So up to this level, basically keep the information of that particular person, and then give this report to the this email ID, and that email ID basically he is allocated to that critical person basically you can say, because he was banned for certain years. So why he was banned? So that type of question basically he will be going to ask, because Yahoo is basically the small basically user portal person basically. He's not a big businessman, right? So if particular person is getting banned, then basically there might be some business level issue, right? Of between the businessman to businessman. For example, one person basically has banned, so he also might be some connection with some of the businessmen. So it might possible that that businessman have some enemies basically. Due to that enemy, that particular person basically who was his friend, so he was banned due to he has a friendship with that particular person. This type of thing also might be possible. So you just keep the track of the email address, and then basically you can tell me each and every information. So basically we can say that why basically he was banned, and what was the reason behind the ban. Each and everything basically we will be going to discuss. So each and every user story basically you can say, you can tell, you can track the person's user story basically you can say, but it's a personal information basically. But Yahoo basically is it's a legal basically the portal. So they basically keeps the permission on the, they have the permission letter also basically on that moment only. So cyber security groups basically immediately issue the cyber security group basically immediately issues the authentication letter also, because they have banned. So once they have banned, then basically they are strict to that particular what to say, order basically which they have given long before. If they change the order, then basically they will be in trouble. Then somebody will ask basically why you have banned that time basically, why you have banned this particular person that time, why you have banned that particular, if that time basically you don't have the proof that this particular why this person was banned, why you have banned this person. So that basically the it's a user story of that particular person, that because it's a business world, right? So for money basically anybody can do anything, it's like that basically. So for money basically anybody can do anything. So here basically we are not discussing that. Here basically we are discussing about the subscription plan, which basically is telling World Bank is telling that we are basically getting this, we are giving the subscription data according to the requirement which is given by your government. So here basically we have taken one example of the internet, right? How basically 7,000 gates are there. Like same way basically the subscription plan groups that are basically the World Bank has created many gates. Whatever data they are passing to the particular country through satellites or directly to the nuclear power plant, they are basically passing according to the authentication only. Authentication in the energy side. Authentication in the energy side means, for example, I will take one example. There is one business tycoon who basically his income is 1 lakh crore per day. Just taking it as an example. So whatever oxygen data he is going to take, whatever things basically is going to take inside the body, that basically is purely filtered and purely verified, then only basically it gets into his body. And few people are so basically critical that their data basically sent to that particular person only, and that particular person approves that yeah, this data should enter to my body, and this data is not supposed to enter my body. So up to that level, basically the groups are there, the business tycoons are there, who are telling that I want this type of energy tomorrow, this type of energy tomorrow, this type of energy tomorrow. So whatever data he is going to take tomorrow, that approval basically is given by himself only. That business person only gives the approval. Power company, this is my data which you have to send tomorrow. And according to that, the because he has discussed with his doctor, right? That tomorrow basically we have this level of meeting and I require this type of energies. So according to that, basically the doctor is telling that you take this data, you take this data. So according to that, basically the data is basically going to send to the particular person, and the meeting basically happens. And basically in meeting, basically this type of data only he is going to get. So you can just imagine the few basically business person are basically up to that level that their oxygen which they are going to take, that is also selected by themselves only. So you can just imagine the um, subscription level. The subscription level with the subscription company creates, the World Bank creates the subscription plans basically. So you can just imagine the subscription data basically, which World Bank is telling that we are basically sending this type of subscription plan to each and every country. And few subscription data are very critical. That's why we are directly sending to them. We are directly sending to them means through the satellites. So few oxygen supply are directly connected with the satellites of that particular person body. Because if he's earning 1 lakh crore per day, then basically satellites he can easily afford, right? So there basically he don't require any nuclear power plant, he don't require any power supply company, he don't require any energy power company, because he is earning up to the 1 lakh crore rupees per day. Then basically this type of oxygen types basically he can easily able to afford. So you can just imagine the critical level of the particular person also. So the subscription plan basically has reached up to this level basically. So you can just imagine the subscription level has reached up to the level. So yesterday basically we had discussed about the God family, right? The God family gets the subscription data according to the subscription plan which is taken by the government, right? So government basically knows that this particular family are from God family, and their data basically this we have to pass. Government is telling that this data the government is going to pass, and this data basically they have to pass to this God family. And the requirement which is God family is telling that we want this type of energy. Few God family says that we want this type of energy, government, so you can send us this type of data. So the Indian government basically are getting lots of money from the God family. So they directly listens the God families whatever the requirement is. So they just data pass the data to the subscription plan group, that is basically the World Bank. And World Bank directly pass the data according to the requirement. So you can just imagine the money power also, the money power which basically they are having, which they require. Basically, government is also not running like that. Basically, right? Government is not running like this. Government also required money. So like this, basically, the government is telling we are getting the money. So we also need basically the money, right? Without money in this world, basically anybody can survive. No, nobody can survive. So we also require the money. So there are lots of industry basically who are telling that we are basically helping the government, and we are basically helping the government, and government is doing certain favor for us. So like this also government is telling we are surviving our industry basically. So government is one industry that also you can say. Government is one of the industry also you can say. So government is telling that whatever thing basically whatever expenses of the country, half of the expenses basically the god families only gives to the government. So why we basically can't fulfill the requirements? So you can just imagine the critical level of the god in India country. I'm basically talking about the India country, basically how critical the level of the god family is in India country. So basically, you can just imagine if anyway, if that's why basically the human clone creations came into picture of the god family persons. That's why basically America is earning up to that level. So America is earning, for example, one software basically how much it will cost? Maximum 200 crore, 300 crore basically assume that. But you can't earn up to the certain level that you becomes the number one country, right? For that basically this is the income basically, right? So there are lots of human clones basically. For example, there are 15 blood cells of one person of the god family, right? So 15 human clones basically minimum they have to create, and for creating one human clone basically it takes more than 100 200 crore dollar. So if it's 100 200 crore dollar in just one human body, human clone creation, and then its maintenance basically how much it cost. So we can just imagine the income level also of the USA also. Like this, basically, there are many countries who are earning this type of money. So we are going to discuss this basically. How basically the USA is how basically USA is earning lots of money from software. Basically, they can't earn up to that level money, right? They can't become the number one country, right? They can't become the number one country in the financial side, fine from the health side. From software you can't earn up to the certain level of money. So we are going to discuss in next part, that is basically 182 part, that how basically United States of America, that is basically USA government, is earning lots of money. So what is the main source of the income of the US?